If you could have a drink with anyone in the theater world, who would it be? I'm Anthony Caporale, and I'm running through my list. Each week, I'll sit down with cast members, bartenders, and personalities from New York's theater district and get a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to live, work, and play on Broadway. Come have a drink with us on Broadway Bartender. Welcome to Broadway Bartender. My name is Anthony Caporale. We are at New World Stages in the heart of New York's theater district, home to my show, The Imbible, A Spirited History of Drinking. And we're going to start off this episode with a drink that I think would be appropriate for any of our guests here at Broadway Bartender, but particularly appropriate for this episode's special guest. This is called a Star Seeker. Really easy drink to make. I'm going to start with a tall glass and just fill it with ice. And then I'm going to add 2 ounces of light rum per drink, and this drink is built right in the glass, like I said, really, really easy. And then just about 1 ounce of orange juice, and then some grenadine for color, and I'm just doing about 1/4 ounce of grenadine. And I'm going to top the whole thing up with tonic water, and then just give it a quick stir. And I actually have some really cool tech for this drink. And this is for our special guest this week, Max Chernin, recently off of the new Broadway show, Bright Star. Yeah. Welcome to Broadway Bartender, my friend.
Thanks, thanks.
Let's see what we think of this.
All right.
This is actually the first time I've ever had this drink.
Cheers.
I'll take that.
Me too.
That works.
Yeah.
Great. So,
Great.
Bright Star.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and turn these off because this is going to drive me crazy otherwise.
Right.
But I thought it was kind of cool for the drink, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, Bright Star. This is a recent musical by Steve Martin and Edie Brickell, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so huge fan of both. Tell me a little bit about the show for those of our viewers who might not be familiar with Bright Star, the musical.
Yeah, so Bright Star was kind of inspired by a true story about a baby that was tossed off the side of a train in a telescope bag and survived.
What?
Yeah, so Edie found this article about this baby and started writing songs based on it, and they wrote an album together. And from there, they kind of thought that it would be interesting to explore its dramatic content. So they staged it originally as an album version, and then they discovered they needed to write new songs. So they wrote like a completely original bluegrass score to kind of accompany this American story.
So this was always a collaborative project between Edie Brickell and Steve Martin right from the beginning?
Yeah, they met each other and like kind of vibed and started jamming on an album, and yeah.
That's so cool. So he's known obviously as a comedian first and foremost, but I think everyone knows that he's a huge fan of and player of the banjo, right? Yeah, and big bluegrass fan. I've seen him perform.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of our previous guests about the fact that I had actually attempted to learn the banjo at some point. I think I got up to Rainbow Connection, that was about it. But it's one of my favorite instruments. I absolutely love it, and he is, you know, I think one of the ambassadors for the instrument.
Totally.
So is that featured pretty prominently, I'm guessing, in the show?
Yeah, definitely. The band was featured on stage, and it was a great band. It was like banjo, fiddle, mandolin, guitar, piano. It had like qualities of that kind of roots bluegrass sound, but they also kind of flushed it out to give it like a dramatic Broadway feel at the same time.
Wow, so it sounds like the music is really, really, it's not like they had a book and then slapped some music on it. The music was organic and integral to it right from the beginning.
Totally, yeah, really central to everything.
That's awesome. And bluegrass, the whole score?
Yeah, you know, sometimes I think it kind of found its own genre. Like there were definitely moments that were like foot stomping, but there were other moments that like a more like traditional kind of ballad kind of snuck its way in there as they saw like it needed to be. Yeah.
Wow. So tell me about this story, because from what I said, it takes place in North Carolina, right?
Right.
Which I lived in North Carolina for a long time. I think I've been to a lot of the places that were mentioned in the show.
Yeah. So they got inspired by that thing, and then they kind of found their own story. It's about, it kind of switches between 2 stories. It's about, and 2 time periods, the 40s and the 20s. It's about a young veteran that just came home from the war, and has decided to kind of find his next step in life, which he's found writing as his passion.
Okay.
So you're kind of following him as he tries to like submit his poems and stuff and all his writing to a local journal, which is run by a kind of uptight woman. And as her story is revealed, we go back in time to the 20s and see bits of her life. And then the show kind of unfolds and you see how they are connected. I won't give away too much, but
okay.
Yeah.
But can you at least tell me? I haven't heard about a Baby in a Telescope.
Sure, I know.
Yet.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of like
the
intriguing.
That I shouldn't have given that away.
Oh,
but,
really?
Well, whatever.
Okay.
So most people know by now. Yes. So you come to find out that in the 20s, this writer Alice Murphy, she had a child when she was like 16, and the mayor of the town. It was his son who was the father, and he didn't want to be shamed by this baby. So in a like crazy way of getting rid of it, he took the train and tossed it off the side.
Really?
Yeah, side of the railroad. And that's the end of Act 1. It's like there goes a baby. I'm giving it all away.
Oh, that's okay. That's right.
But yeah, no. So
okay. And
so
Bruce
then,
Willis is dead just while we're giving stuff away. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, so then like in the second, then you kind of see how this baby survived and how she comes to find out. She finds out what happens to the baby way later in her life. She spends her whole life like trying to figure out if, it got adopted or where the baby went or where they took it, and it consumes her. And when she finds out what happens to it, it's a big cathartic moment. That was intense to watch. And Carmen Cusack played this role. She made her Broadway debut, and she was just sensational. The whole role was kind of, once they saw her take the material, they were like, wow, you get it.
Right.
You get all of this. And that bluegrass style, that is in her bones. She's got a lot of grit.
That was like a career-making role, right? Absolutely. I mean, that was like a formative. I remember reading tons of things about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how long have you been involved with the production? I mean, tell me a little about the history. How does something like this come about?
Yeah, so they had a little bit of history before I got there. They were up at the Powerhouse in Vassar, and that's where they started.
Okay.
And then it got picked up by the Old Globe in San Diego.
Sure.
So that's where they did their first kind of mounting of the show, and that's when I joined them. And we spent like 3 months out there just getting it up on its feet and trying to figure out how to stage it and get it going. And then from there, took a little time off, did like a reading, and then we went out of town to the Kennedy Center,
okay.
Where we hung out for like 2 months, and then we transferred to Broadway. Yeah.
Wow. So are you from San Diego, or where are you from?
No, I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio.
So how did you end up getting cast in that production?
Auditioning. When
Really?
I was here, yeah, here in the city, just a appointment. Went in.
So I'm always fascinated to find out about the stories behind the people in shows like this, because these journeys are amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
So you auditioned in New York City, and then ended up being cast in the production in San Diego.
Yeah.
That then went to DC.
DC.
And then
back to Broadway. Yeah.
back to New York.
Yeah.
How long did all this take?
It took, I think, from San Diego to Broadway like a little over a year. Yeah, which is pretty short in
is.
Yeah, like maybe like 18 months, I think, before, or maybe 2 years.
Okay.
18 months. Yeah.
But that's been the last 2 years of your life, right?
Yeah. Well, it actually ended about a year ago. So yeah.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's an incredible journey.
Yeah, it was it's
Wow,
it was a really
congratulations.
amazing debut. Yeah.
Really, really cool. Okay, so any future plans for the show? I mean, is there?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, it's kind of going across the country. They're starting to form a tour. I think it's going to LA in the fall. Yeah, I think it'll live on, and it's definitely something that is really accessible for regional houses and smaller theaters to do. And I think truly captivating for the American audience.
Absolutely, and I'm sure there's a cast album that people can get, which I'm sure the music is probably spectacular.
Yeah, Peter Asher actually was on our project, of Peter and Gordon fame.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
that's cool.
he was supervising it all. And the album, it's really rad. Yeah.
Wow! Congratulations. That's
Thanks,
such
man.
a fantastic story.
Yeah.
So you have some other cool stuff I want to talk to you about too.
Yeah.
A little bit of connection with another guest that we had, or at least another show that we had talked about on Broadway Bartender before, Sunday in the Park with George. You've done both the concert and the theatrical version. Right. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that one. I love the show. I love everything that he's ever done. But tell me a little about your experience there.
That was a total kind of surprise. I mean, I joined the concert, and it was awesome. I got to do like some ensemble work in that. And then pretty much, I think at the end, Jake was like, I don't want this to be Jake Gyllenhaal. You know, he was like, Jake. Oh, my buddy Jake.
No, that's cool.
He was like, I don't think I want this to be the end. And, you know, then of course magic, and we're doing it on Broadway. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it was really like just, I mean, once in a lifetime. It's like such a dream score, such a amazing, important piece of musical theater.
So one of the things that I like to do for our guests that may not be based in New York or that well versed in the theater industry is sort of explain some of these. There's a lot of things about Broadway and theater that are kind of unique and not everybody fully understands. Mm-hmm. So I know, especially if you're let's say you're in Middle America and you get a concert version of a show, mm-hmm. what can people expect? How is that different from what they would expect from like a fully mounted theatrical version or something you would see on Broadway?
Sure. Well, it kind of varies. I find there's like a loose concert that's like, people on music stands in like gowns and a microphone, and then there's like a kind of in between that has like suggestions of costumes, and so that's kind of where we were living. So it's a way to experience the like content of the show, especially with something like this with such a lush score. It's a way to hear the music and appreciate it. But you get, they do the scene work too, so you get a feeling of the plot and the story, but more like stripped down kind of version.
So where there is talking and dialogue, that's included as well. So it's, but it really does focus on the music.
I would say so. Yeah, they usually put more, especially with a musical, they'll put more money into the orchestra and kind of highlight that, because oftentimes they'll be at like City Center, which does a lot of concert version stuff, and other like venues like Carnegie Hall and stuff like that. So
wow. That's two amazing projects on your resume. I forgot to ask you about Bright Star. Your character name in Bright Star.
His name was Max. It was amazing. Yes, it was so kind of halfway between San Diego and DC. We did a little reading around Christmas time, and Mr. Steve Martin himself was like, "Hey, we wrote a foil, like a kind of character role for the young lead because he's in love with a girl in a bookstore, and so was Max, but he could never get the girl, kind of like this nerdy glasses guy, and he, for at least my memory of the story, or at least what I'm pretending is what happened, Steve was like, hey, we wrote this role, and we knew you were going to do it, and we decided your name was okay.
Oh, you got to be kidding. So it's literally your name?
Yeah, it's my name.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
so cool.
Yeah, so forever on, I guess other people will play Max, but it's me.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
What's it like working with Steve Martin, by the way?
It was really fascinating. I didn't know what to expect. I thought I might, meet the Steve Martin that we all know.
Yeah.
But he's so dedicated to his work as a writer. It really felt like I was meeting a book writer of a show. And he's so passionate about his writing and both in the music end, and he wrote the book, the script too. So it was awesome to see him work that way. I mean, he was and he said in San Diego, he was like, I've done a play, I've done movies, I've done TV, I have not done a musical, and it terrifies me. So, but that's why he does it. He's still doing stuff like that.
Just to learn and experience these things.
Just to learn and experience, which is so inspiring, I think, yeah. But, however, like, if we were working and we were like, we don't know how to figure this out, and you kind of feel like a weird moment in the room, he would like kind of scoot out of his chair and like fall or like do some kind of physical comedy just to lighten it up, which was just kind of crazy. Yeah, and then he would sometimes be like, oh, let me show you how this thing goes on the banjo, and all of a sudden he's playing and we're all like,
is he just amazing to watch on the banjo?
He's a master. Yeah.
Wow, that's right. So he's not like wild and crazy and all over the place. I mean, he's like,
when needed, he can be. Yeah, like when we went and did Jimmy Fallon, it was fun to watch him do that. He's just like, all right, I'm going to do my thing, and then like 2 seconds later, we see like Steve Martin.
It on, like,
right?
Switch?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Did he actually warned you, like, hey,
no,
this is...
No, he didn't. Okay. He didn't. We were like, oh, right, that's the guy we're working with.
Right.
It was a reminder of that.
Well, I have such respect for that, where it's someone who can actually like modulate the talent, and like that's unbelievable.
He's a really cool one. Yeah.
So another project I want to talk to you about. Golden Apple?
The Golden Apple, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So that was actually back at the house that did the Sunday in the Park reading. It's part of the Encores series, and they take like an old Broadway show that maybe didn't have a life and remount it in another concert version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this one is an old, like, kind of cult hit that came out in the 50s, and it's loosely based off the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Loosely.
Loosely, well, yeah. And it's a very eclectic score, sung through, and it was a cast of 40 people. It's like one of those epic kind of shows that used to happen back in the day, where they would have,
like back in the Follies kind of day when there's like billions of people on stage.
Right after, like right in the state, in that like kind of moment after, but still kind of paying homage to all of that. I mean, we had like a singing corps and a dancing corps of people. So
this was still like theater as spectacle kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So that was a great experience to kind of like dust off an old score with some really talented musicians, and that was another one that had a full kind of orchestral sound. I think we had like almost 30 pieces in that. So that just being on stage with like 40 singers, a 30-piece orchestra at New York City Center, which is this landmark kind of theater, it was epic. It was really awesome. Yeah.
Wow, man, you've worked on some great stuff.
Yeah,
man.
I've been really fortunate.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
How did you get into it? What's your background?
I started pretty young. Yeah, I think I started. I think singing was my first thing. You know, I'd watch like Disney movies and sing Lion King, and then that, and I was not. The sports camp stuff was kind of like just a sad moment for me. So my parents got me, into the arts world, and I started doing that, and yeah, that was my jam. It was great, and once I started meeting other like talented young people, that's when it started to click. I was like, oh, I can do this, and I would see older kids go off to college and do it, and I was like, oh, I can do that too. And then I was like, I can stop worrying about math and science, and I'll just do that. I'll just do the theater stuff.
And your parents supported that?
Yeah.
Wow, you're lucky,
yeah,
my friend.
Very
that's
lucky.
Great. Yeah,
very, very lucky.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, any experience bartending or restaurant industry?
Well, yeah, I was a host and a waiter, but I didn't really get behind the bar. Yeah, I worked at a vegan restaurant on the Upper West Side.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
So, you want to sit behind the bar?
Sure.
All right. Why don't we switch places here, and
Okay.
I'm going to have you make a drink.
All right.
Right there.
Cool.
And I'm going to put your Star Seeker over here for you. And so this is a super classic drink that comes out of the American South, particularly right around the Kentucky and Loretto region, but also you would have found it throughout North Carolina and Tennessee. So this is sort of something that I think fits with the whole bright star theme. It's called a Bourbon and Branch.
Word.
You ever had one?
No.
All right. So super simple. It's the name is the ingredients. It's bourbon, and branch refers to branch water.
Okay.
Which is the water from a branch of the river that the distillery uses to make the bourbon.
Wow.
So what a lot of people don't realize is that liquor, as we get it, shipped in bottles, is about 40% alcohol or 80 proof. And it's really what we call hot. It's not very pleasant for a lot of people to drink at bottle strength. Some people prefer it that way, and that's great. But really, what you're supposed to do is cut it down to the point where it doesn't burn anymore. And distillers know this better than anybody. So what the bourbon distillers would do is they would pour themselves a glass of their bourbon and then cut it with the water that they use to actually fill the bottle, because it comes out of the cask, out of the bourbon barrel rather, at considerably higher than 40% alcohol.
Yeah.
So then they cut it back to that. So what they're doing is just kind of opening it up, is what we call it, because watering it down sounds bad.
Right.
But it reduces that heat and makes it much more accessible. So the easiest drink in the world. You have 2 rocks glasses. I'm going to ask you to just fill them both up all the way to the top with ice.
With ice.
Yep. And then in each of them, we're going to do 1 ounce of bourbon, and we are going to measure by counting. And as a musician, this is going to be easy for you.
Okay, cool.
So you have a bottle of bourbon right there.
The makers?
Yep. And
Cool.
I want you to just turn it upside down. I want you to count to 2.
To 2. All right.
Yep. And
What's
that's going to be 1 ounce.
How do people do
okay,
it?
great question.
Like,
Because I know I never go over this with people on the show. So the right way to do this, go ahead and put some down and point the spout towards me.
Okay.
Great. Now make a gun with your finger. Good. Take the barrel of the gun and put it outside the spout, so it's pointing in the direction of the spout, but right up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you want this joint, this
see.
second joint, to actually be pointing in the direction that the pour spout is facing. So if you were to do this, is what you're looking at, and then you're just going to wrap your fingers around the neck of the bottle. And what this does is it prevents this pour spout from coming out, but it keeps the air hole clear, and you need air to go in order for liquid to come out. Okay? So barrel of the gun right next to you. So you're going to go, I'm just going to, there you go. So just like that, and then wrap your fingers around. And that's the cool kid way to hold it.
Okay, cool, yeah, because I'm a cool kid.
Yeah, of course you are. So count to 2 in each of those.
And 1, 2, right?
Good, perfect.
Great.
Yep.
And 1, 2.
And perfect. Now you have the bar gun right there. You can put that bourbon down, and you're going to see water on there. And I want you to just fill it up with water.
All right.
Really, really easy. And that is, now in theory, what we would go ahead and do the other one, we would want to be using, if this was done properly at the distillery, as I said, you would actually use the water that they use to make the bourbon.
Cool.
Absent that, next best thing would be some nice mineral water. But again, most people, just have, New York City has some of the best tap water in the country with a perfect mineral content. It works really well in this drink. And that is our Bourbon and Branch. It's one of the classic American mixed drinks. You want to give it a try?
Yeah.
Are you a bourbon fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's see what you think.
All right, you want one too?
Yeah, I would love one.
All right.
Cheers. See how easy that is?
It opens it up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's nice. It's smooth, it's easy. You can drink like a couple of these in an afternoon, right? And you still got that nice caramel of the bourbon, but you don't get into that burn. Really, really nice way to enjoy the product.
Totally, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on Broadway Bartender. Max Chernin, Bright Star. Do you have a website or social media info you want to plug? Tell our viewers.
It's just my full name, maxchernin.com, and you can find all the stuff there.
Awesome.
All my social stuff. So,
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Folks, you can tune in next week, as always, and check us out on the web, BroadwayBartender.com, for recipes and links. Drink well, drink responsibly. Cheers, my friend. Long runs seem to be something you've been able to manage in your career. What's the secret? I mean, this is every actor's dream, is to put together a working career.
I know. I've been really lucky, but I have to say there was a long time between Amadeus, which I got when I first came to New York, because I was stupid. I didn't know what a casting person was or how to be nervous or anything. I was literally, it's one of those things where a little less knowledge is sometimes good. And then I went through a period where it's like, oh, okay, I've got to relearn how New York works. I had been very lucky, things like 39 Steps and Peter and the Starcatcher and other shows, where it's enabled, and those long runs. And I recognize, like, especially for plays don't tend to run long. And so I've been very lucky in finding plays that have had a nice life. And when I'm in the middle of them, I go, this is rare. I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to make the money. I'm going to save up for my house. And that's what we did.
So producers out there, if you would like a long run to your show, cast Arnie, and apparently that's the secret.